Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intention Ascension. So, today I want to talk about complacency and creation. We can find ourselves in very long stretches of time where we feel like we are very complacent in what we're doing. Maybe our routine is set in stone and we know exactly how the day is going to go. We can predict the behavior of the people around us. We may be caught off guard with like a few new situations, whatever the case may be, but everything is pretty much predictable. And what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and when dinner is going to be on the table, and when we're going to get home, and how long we're going to do X, Y, and Z for until we go to bed and we start over and we do it again, and we lack the um the high vibrational feeling that we're looking for in our lives. And we have an opportunity at that point to create, to discover, to dive into ourselves and figure out, what can I do differently? How can I make changes? Like, I'm tired, I feel complacent, I'm bored, nothing is making me happy no matter what I do. When you're not on the right path, there's many ways that we are going to be shown, and complacency is one of them. And I do say, don't confuse boredom and contentment, because there are points in time where we are content, and the things that are happening in our life, while they may be predictable, are just a break, and it's just a moment to relax from like everything that's going on. But when we have those stretches of time where it doesn't matter what we're doing or how we do it, we just feel bored, and we try to add in little things and we do little things, but ultimately we're not happy. And that is our universal sign that it is time to create. It's time to do something different. That is our hibernation season, essentially. And if we pay attention to that and we can identify, no matter what I'm doing, I'm just not happy. And I can implement all these other activities and whatnot, but I'm just not finding fulfillment in my life. And I don't understand what my purpose is. And I don't know where I'm going. And I sure as heck know that if I stay on this path, exactly what next year is going to look like. I know that I'm going to make 75 cents more that I'm making now if I just stick it out for the next couple months for this raise and not go searching for the next best thing for me. And when we can identify that point in time in our lives, then we are able to also use that time to start researching different things, different hobbies, different events, different groups, things that are going to feed our soul. Maybe that's changing your diet and focusing on a different routine, because food really is our medicine. I was having the most mind-blowing conversation with someone. Um, we lost someone a few years ago, and I had been explaining about this person's diet, the things that they were doing, how they didn't take care of themselves, and the different components of the food choices they were making, and how poisonous they were, and how they were probably a huge, not probably, I know that they were a huge factor into why this person's health declined in the way that they did. And ultimately it led to um a disease that killed them. And the person I was talking to said, no, it was just a series of unfortunate events. And it's just sad that this happened and that it happened like how it did. And had no clue, was unwilling to look at what it was that that person was doing or how their mental health was. And it made me realize how many people are walking this earth right now that literally think that we are just here to live and die and experience things along the way, that we are not here for soul development, for evolution, or that we've been here multiple times. And I know that reincarnation is not a concept that everybody can grasp, But when I apply reincarnation to so many different areas of even what's going on in the world, I can see how these patterns are repeating. I can, from the work that I've done, I can see, okay, this is probably something that's happening to me karmically from a past life, a lesson I have to learn. I previously must have done X, Y, and Z, or probably did X, Y, and Z, because there's no other rational explanation for why I'm going through this right now. It's not a lack of boundaries. It's not that I've not spoken up for myself or allowed, A, B, C, and D to come into my life. Very self aware. And I also believe that there is a point in time where once we've learned the lessons, we are no longer going through lessons based off of karma, but that we are now going through them because they are elevating us on our path and our soul's evolution. So we're no longer paying into the debt of things that have possibly previously happened. And we are now solely focused on going through these lessons because we have something else that we're supposed to be doing in this lifetime. So you're given this opportunity, this time in your life, this complacency feeling, and it's up to you as to what you do with it. How are you going to utilize that time? What do you want to do differently for yourself or this year that you haven't been doing previously? What changes do you want to make? Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. You either evolve or you repeat, and that can be good, that can be bad, that can be toxic relationships, that could be your career, that could be your friendships, that can be the decisions, your thought patterns. That's one of the things that I was working on a few years ago was identifying how often I was having negative beliefs. And so I used a little trick where I put a rubber band or a hair tie on my wrist. And as often as I could, because it is a habit that you have to build, anytime I had thought negatively about something, I would flick that rubber band. And it wasn't for me to count how many times I was thinking negative. It was to bring awareness to me every time I was having that thought or a negative thought. So that way I could flip it. And then I took that same concept and I applied it to how often am I allowing other people's energy or mood to affect me? So I've been working in an environment where it is just like complaints after complaint after complaint after complaint. And I am sure so many of you can resonate with me on that one, whether you are a bill collector or you are working at a high-end fashion store or if you're working in a bowling alley or at McDonald's, like it does not matter. Um, I believe that we are all faced with often a lot of negativity around us. So the power is in what do we do with that when we are faced with it? And it's not a overnight process. It's not a light switch that you flip. It takes time. It takes awareness and it takes replacing the negative thoughts with positive thoughts. So in this time of complacency, especially if you're currently in it, start looking at what thoughts am I having? Because the thoughts that you are having are what you are going to attract. We have a tendency to only perceive things in the world from our point of view. Like we may be able to abstract that out, but if we're going through something, we can readily identify that in other people. And that is also, I believe, why it's so important that when we look at certain niches, that we are working with people who have been through the scenarios before, who have overcame certain things, right? And when I was in AA and I was working the AA format of the program, AA, NA, both of them, like you go through the 12 steps, you get a sponsor, and you're supposed to go to your sponsor for everything, everything, everything. But like if you're having relationship issues and your sponsor hasn't been in a relationship in years because they have unresolved things, or they're in all of these relationships and none of them are lasting because they haven't resolved certain things, then are you going to go to them for relationship advice? Well, maybe if you feel like you're supposed to, but typically that probably wouldn't be your first choice if that was solely what you were seeking. If you need advice on a business adventure or how to manage your finances, and your sponsor is terrible with money, has never started a business, has never done any of those things, you probably don't really want the advice from them anyways. So it is really important that when you are going out and you are seeking how to evolve and how to create this new version of yourself, it's really important to pay attention to who it is that you are seeking your information from. So, in this complacency time, it's really time for creativity and boredom. It's time for creativity. It's your soul saying, we have to do something different. We have to change. Let's do something. And when people take that time and they fill it with things like continuously watching TV that's not educational, or watching 500 episodes and 12 seasons of a show that may be funny but is really just kind of a waste of your time. You're going backwards. You're going backwards. And so there's a difference between being tired and being spiritually exhausted or soul exhaustion. And the soul exhaustion will only go away when you start to bring in the energy that's necessary for your next move. Have you ever been around anybody that it's like they have not changed, they have not evolved, they have not educated themselves, they're not taking classes, they're not doing anything different, they're not focusing on their health or their fitness, or maybe meditation and mindfulness or yoga? Like, there is no adventure whatsoever. It's just the same thing from wake up to going to bed for years and years and years. And I also feel that for those of us who are searching for that soul purpose, that are searching for what it is that they're going to create, they have like a different strain of DNA. Like, when you look around and you see how many people are complacent and unwilling to make changes, and you are aware of it, and you can readily identify those people, like, oh, yeah, Sammy. Sammy has been doing the same thing for 40 years, and they seem to be okay. I guarantee you Sammy is not okay, because they have not gone searching for their purpose in this lifetime, and they have settled. And that is why we're here. That is why we've come together in this community. And we have so many people that are reincarnating on this earth right now, and so many souls that are coming in. And we're all shifting the planet. We're all becoming aware. We're all breaking this matrix lifestyle that so many people are just trapped in, and they need help. Not everybody is willing to make the changes. Not everybody is willing to look at complacency and say, oh, I should be doing something different. But if you're this far into this video, you are absolutely one of the people who are willing to make the changes that are necessary. It's your creation period. It's your time to be able to make the necessary changes to move on to the next step, to evolve in ways that you've never evolved before. And when you focus your attention on making those changes, so that way you can be a different person next year, not just have different coworkers, not just have different pillowcases on your pillows, but to be a different person, to be working towards something, to be expanding something, even if it's within the company that you work for. So if you're currently working for a company and you love it, and you love the vision, you love the benefits package, you don't want to break out and do your own thing, well, that's fine. Maybe you're supposed to be creating something inside of your job, going forward, looking at a different department. Maybe you can go to your boss and say, hey, I want to redefine my role. This is something I'm really passionate about. I would like to see if we can work on a project doing A, B, C, and D. And they might surprise you and say, yes, let's do that. And now you're making an impact within the company that is much larger. And it's something that you are passionate about. However, if you're sitting here and you're saying, I want to do something different. I want to create something. I feel like my soul is meant for more. I feel like I'm here on a mission. I have a message. I've been through a lot. I want to do something. I want to help others. Those are the souls that are here that are elevating and changing and impacting the world in such a massive way. And if you stay stuck in complacency, you are not going to get your message out. And you have to step into the unknown. You have to step into facing your fears. You have to go from being complacent to being determined, to being able to look at what it is that you are able to bring to the table, the lives that you've already impacted, the things that make you happy, and you start to create something. We live in a time now where you can get access to just about anybody, any platform, any niche that you are interested in, and you can excel in that. There was a time where these things weren't around. And so there were, I guess, maybe some excusable excuses, but really, no, there weren't. There aren't, because we always have the universe that is pushing us and showing us. And it's up to us to be able to look at it and say, hey, I notice this. I recognize this. Whenever my friends are having a problem, they always come to me. I'm always the sound one. I'm the one with the answers. I'm the one that can bring people who are at 975 down to a 3 in less than 5 minutes. I'm the one who is able to empower my friends when they're feeling down. I'm the motivator who pushes people when we're at the gym. Whatever the case may be, there is something very unique and very special about you. And you have the ability to figure out how you are going to step into the role where you are in control of your own life. Where for me personally, I would say that my beginning into this new chapter of wanting more freedom in my life and not wanting to work these 9 to 5s. And it wasn't always like that. Like I mean, I guess I have always wanted to be a business owner, and at once upon a time, I was a business owner, and I was doing medical aesthetics in Alaska, and I kind of knew what I was doing, but not enough to really make a successful business. But I look back at that and I know that at the time, my mindset was still wrapped around freedom. And so, I don't know, not too long ago, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I was working at the highest paying job I have ever had. I didn't even know it was possible. But when I started that job, it started out of like crazy circumstances and a dark night of the soul, or 3. I think I had gone through 3, and then that career change ended up being number 4. And it brought me into the highest paying job I've ever had, making the most money. And I would walk in and everything was fear driven. You had no idea if you were going to be fired that day. There were new people constantly. It was a very big operation. And I was tired of it. I had started getting phone calls from friends, and I was like friends of friends that were out traveling the world and had done all these different things. And I was so jealous. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm making more money than I've ever been making, and I can get a savings account, but God forbid I request a day off because then I'll lose everything. And someone had pointed out that on Monday morning, the digestive system kicks in hardcore. And it was one of those things. It was the perfect time for that conversation to be happening, because the day prior, I was thinking there's something wrong with me. Like I need to eat more lettuce, or I don't know what's going on. But as soon as I got to work Monday morning, boom, the anxiety, the fear, the like judgment, the, oh God, we've got a meeting, or oh, this person's texted me, oh, they're calling me. Oh my God, they want me to come into their office. Like my legs would shake like jello. It was crazy. And it made me realize I don't want to be ran by fear. And so I took my savings account and I quit my job and I went to Joshua Tree. And that was the beginning of the next chapter of my life. And don't get me wrong, there have been days, multiple days, consecutive days, non consecutive days where I've been like, did you make the right choice, bro? Like, are you sure you should have done that? Like, you could maybe call them and see. Well, probably not. Yeah, I made the right choice. Yeah, I learned something monumental from them. One, I want to make that much money on my own. Number two, I don't want to be ran by fear ever, ever. It's time to create. It's time to step out and do something that is completely different than anything that you have ever done before. And I took that leap of faith. I went through a lot during that time. I went through even more dark nights of the soul and questioning and being worried that I was never going to come out on top and that I was going to continue to upset my family and prove them wrong. Sorry, my dog is running around right now. And so I was very terrified. I was very terrified of what I did, but I knew that I had to do something different. And so I took that time off and I decided I was going to try all these new things, and none of them were sticking. None of them. And I was like, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to try this. And I've been exposed to that. So I'm going to do that. Until finally I realized it was an accumulation of all these little different things. There were skill sets from each thing that I thought that I was going to do, and it wasn't the full path. It was little bits and pieces. And I had to go through that experience to see that I was headed in the right direction, even though it didn't feel like it. It didn't seem like it. My savings account was dwindling. Nothing was coming out on top. And I was for sure that things were going to be different. Things were going to change. And I would no longer ever again return to what I was doing. And so when things started to get a little bit sketchy, I decided, okay, I'm going to have to go back to working a 9 to 5. And I put my application out everywhere, multiple times for especially big corporations and things like that. And I was gearing towards my soul's development in ways that I had never developed before. And the only door that opened for me was to put me into a position where I was going to have to create something. I was going to have to now take all the lessons that I learned and put them into action on my free time now, after just coming off this long vacation and having all the free time in the world and being able to do what I want, sleep in and wake up and go to bed and yada, 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 back into the matrix so I could survive. And sometimes that is how our lessons come to us. And so now I'm in a position where I have enough. I will always have enough. And I will continue to have enough. I've had enough. I've always had enough. I will always have enough. That's what I meant. And now I have to use all of my tools and all of my tips and tricks that I give to other people to be able to fully free myself from this matrix. So we are at the max capacity for time today. So I'm going to pause there. I love you guys, and I will pick up more on the vibrational frequency and alignment, creativity, and complacency. I mean, everything always goes together no matter what. It all intertwines. The more that I look at like cognitive behavioral therapy, rational emotive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, and the ABCDs, the REBT, and it's all just like one cluster of letters. It's like an alphabet soup, and it all goes together and it all combines just like every little thing. So it doesn't even matter what I talk about next. But that is all for now. So I love you guys, and I will check in later.